Hey everyone, and welcome back to Love Hackers. I'm Alex Carter,
And I'm Sophie Tanaka.
and we are your dating coaches extraordinaire, ready to help you navigate the wild world of modern romance.
That's right. We're diving deep today into a topic that's crucial for making a good first impression.
Texting.
You guys sent in some really interesting articles about common texting mistakes that guys make.
And we're here to break it all down.
So let's get started with mistake number 1.
Going overboard with the emojis and LOLs.
I mean, we all love a good emoji, right?
Right?
Yeah.
But apparently there's a fine line between playful and, well, a little too enthusiastic.
The article we're looking at actually compares it to sounding like a frat boy trying too hard.
Oh no, not the frat boy comparison.
All about using them strategically, not just throwing them around like confetti.
So it's more about quality over quantity.
Exactly. Think about it like this in a face-to-face conversation. You wouldn't just burst out laughing after every sentence.
True, you laugh when something's actually funny.
Exactly. And emojis should be the same. Use them to enhance your message, not drown it out.
A well-placed wink or a laughing emoji can add some personality.
But a barrage of emojis can come across as insincere or even a little desperate.
It's like you're trying to compensate for a lack of substance with a bunch of flashy graphics.
Right. Let your words speak for themselves and use emojis sparingly to add a touch of personality.
Okay, so less is more when it comes to emojis.
Got it. Now, let's move on to mistake number 2, not asking her out.
This one seems pretty straightforward, but you'd be surprised how many guys fall into this trap.
Yeah, why is that?
I think it often boils down to fear of rejection.
Makes sense.
Guys might hesitate to make a move because they're afraid of being turned down, but here's the thing. If a woman gives you her number...
She's probably hoping you'll use it.
Exactly. She's already showing interest. She's likely expecting you to ask her out at some point.
So don't overthink it, just go for it.
Exactly. And when you do ask her out, be specific.
Okay, so none of this want to hang out sometime? Business? Right, that's vague and doesn't really demonstrate that you've put any thought into it.
It's like you're not really invested in making it happen.
Instead, suggest a specific daytime and activity.
Like, would you be free to grab coffee on Friday afternoon?
Exactly. That shows confidence and that you value her time.
Plus, it makes it much more likely that the date will actually happen.
Okay, ready for a curveball?
Hit me with it.
The article actually advises against asking her out over text.
Would really?
Instead, it recommends calling her in the middle of a text conversation.
Whoa, that's a bold move.
It is. It definitely goes against conventional dating advice, but there's a certain logic to it.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Why would you call her mid-text?
It's about disrupting the expected pattern and creating a moment of surprise.
I like it.
Think about it. You're in the middle of a text exchange, things are flowing, and suddenly you switch it up by calling her.
It shows you're not afraid to be spontaneous.
Exactly. And it gives you a chance to connect on a deeper level.
Because hearing each other's voices can create a sense of intimacy and familiarity that texting just can't replicate.
And it shows that you're comfortable talking on the phone, which can be a sign of confidence.
It's like you're giving her a sneak peek into what it would be like to actually hang out with you in person.
Right. It creates that sense of anticipation and excitement.
So there's an art to this. You don't want to call her out of the blue if the conversation isn't flowing naturally.
But if you feel like there's a good vibe, don't be afraid to take the leap and give her a call.
So it's about reading the situation and trusting your instincts.
Oh.
I like it now. Let's move on to mistake number 4, sending explicit photos or texts. I think it goes without saying that this is a major no-no.
It's about respect and building a genuine connection, sending explicit content before you've established a foundation of trust.
Yeah, it can be incredibly disrespectful and create an uncomfortable dynamic.
It sends the message that you're primarily interested in one thing.
And it can really derail any chance of building a meaningful relationship.
Instead of resorting to cheap thrills, focus on getting to know her through genuine conversation.
Let your personality and your words be the source of attraction.
Much better than a hastily sent photo.
Okay, let's debunk a classic piece of dating advice. The 3-day rule.
Oh, the infamous 3-day rule?
The idea that you should wait 3 days before texting back after getting her number.
So outdated.
Right.
In today's world, waiting 3 days to text back just comes across as playing games.
It's like you're saying, I'm not that interested in you.
Exactly. Instead of playing mind games, text back when you have the time and when it feels natural.
If you're excited to talk to her, let it show.
Don't overthink it. Just be yourself and let the conversation flow organically.
Authenticity is key. And speaking of authenticity, Let's talk about the last mistake on our list, sending super long texts. I mean, we've all been there. You get caught up in a conversation and suddenly you've written a
I feel
novel.
like you're hijacking her attention span.
Nobody wants to scroll through a wall of text on their phone.
It can feel overwhelming and even a bit inconsiderate of her time. Think about it. You're essentially demanding that she devote a significant chunk of her attention to reading your message.
Right, it can come across as self-absorbed.
Instead of bombarding her with a novel, keep your texts concise, engaging, and to the point. Think of it like a Twitter thread.
Each text should be like a little gem of information or wit, something that sparks her interest and keeps the conversation flowing.
Exactly. And if you find yourself needing to go into more depth, or if the conversation starts to get really involved,
That's your cue to pick up the phone and have a real conversation.
it's about recognizing when texting has reached its limits.
And being willing to transition to a more personal form of communication.
Great advice. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive into texting.
We've explored 5 common mistakes that guys often make, from emoji overload to the dreaded 3-day rule.
And we've given you some actionable tips to avoid these pitfalls and up your texting game, but there's more to uncover.
So stay tuned for the next part of our deep dive, where we'll delve into even more insightful tips and strategies to help you master the art of texting.
It's fascinating how much emphasis this article puts on making that switch from texting to calling.
Yeah, it definitely seems like a power move,
Yeah.
but I can see why it works.
It's like bringing some real-world energy into that digital space.
Right,
Yeah.
and it's not just about being spontaneous. There are some actual psychological benefits to hearing each other's voices.
Absolutely. It creates a much deeper connection and a sense of intimacy.
When you think about it, texting only gives you like a fraction of the whole
Or
picture.
you're missing out on all the little nuances.
Tone inflection.
All those subtle things that convey emotion.
It's like getting a glimpse of the real person behind the screen.
Exactly. And that can be super powerful. It really helps to humanize the interaction.
And make you feel more familiar.
Like you're starting to bridge that gap between the digital world and the real world.
And building that familiarity can be so important for creating attraction and comfort.
It's like giving her a taste of what it would be like to actually hang out with you.
Exactly, building anticipation and excitement.
But of course, timing is key here,
Right, you don't want to just randomly call her out of nowhere.
especially if the conversation isn't flowing naturally.
It's like interrupting a good story.
You want to make sure you're picking up on the right cues.
So if you're feeling a good vibe,
The conversation's engaging, you're both enjoying the back and forth.
that's when you take the leap.
Give her a call. It could be the thing that takes it to the next level.
It's all about reading the situation and trusting your instincts.
Exactly.
Now, before we move on, I want to circle back to something we talked about earlier.
Okay.
Concise texting.
Oh, yes.
This article makes a great analogy, comparing sending those super long texts to writing a whole novel.
I mean, who wants to get a novel on their phone?
Seriously, imagine opening your phone and seeing this massive wall of text.
It can be so overwhelming.
And a little off-putting.
Like, where do I even begin with all of this?
It's like you're giving her homework.
Instead of something fun and enjoyable.
Right. And it also sends a subtle message about how much you respect her time.
When you send a super long text, it's like you're assuming she has nothing better to do than read all your thoughts.
Like you're not even considering if she's busy.
Or have other things going on in her life.
Exactly. So instead of that novel, keep your texts short.
Engage for 3 or 4 lines max.
Unless the conversation really calls for something longer.
It's quality over quantity.
Each text should be like a little gem,
Interesting, intriguing.
something that leaves her wanting more.
And if you find yourself needing to say more,
That might be a good sign that it's time to pick up the phone.
have a real conversation.
Exactly. Recognize when texting has reached its limits and be willing to switch to something more personal.
That's such a good takeaway.
Okay, now I want to shift gears for a moment and bring it back to you, our listeners.
All right.
Have you ever fallen into any of these texting traps?
I think we've all been there at some point.
It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of a new connection.
And make a few mistakes along the way.
The important thing is to learn from them and adjust your approach.
It's all about growth and self-awareness.
Exactly. And remember, texting is just one piece of this whole communication puzzle,
Be mindful of how you're coming across in all your interactions.
not just in your text.
Absolutely. It's about being authentic, respectful, and engaging.
Whether you're texting, talking on the phone, or meeting in person.
Those qualities will always come through.
So to wrap up the second part of our deep dive, let's recap the key takeaways.
Okay.
Making that transition from texting to calling can really change the game.
Keeping your text short shows that you respect her time.
And above all, being authentic and genuine.
is the foundation of any good connection.
And don't forget, we're not done yet.
There's still more to explore in this world of texting,
So stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive
where we'll talk about even more strategies to help you master communication.
and make a great impression. We've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into texting, guys.
We've explored those common mistakes, and we've given you some solid strategies to really step up your game.
But before we wrap things up, I want to leave you with a little something to think about.
Okay, shoot.
Beyond all these specific tips we've talked about, what do you think is the most important element of successful communication?
Ooh, good question.
Whether it's texting or talking face-to-face,
I think for me, it always comes back to authenticity.
being yourself.
Yeah, when you're genuine, people can just feel it.
It comes through in your words, your actions, everything.
It's about being comfortable in your own skin and not trying to be someone you're not.
And being a good listener,
Yes, being present in the conversation.
showing that you're actually interested in what the other person has to say.
Communication is a two-way street. You're building a connection.
And that all starts with being authentic and engaged.
Love that.
Such great advice, and I think that's the perfect note to end on.
Couldn't agree more.
Remember, guys, texting is just one part of this whole dating journey.
Focus on building real connections.
Be yourselves.
And most importantly,
Have fun.
don't forget to keep those phones handy for those spontaneous calls. They can really spice things up.
That's right. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of texting. We're here to help you navigate all the ups and downs of dating.
One text at a time.
I'm Alex Carter.
And I'm Sophie Tanaka.
And this is Love Hackers, your daily dose of dating advice. Don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share.
We'll catch you on the next deep dive.